been considered germane to the FAA reauthorization in 93, amendment number Higgins 93 and Higgins 95. I'd like to address them both as they are related. As a matter of background, we're discussing the intersection between FAA authority and law enforcement authority on the ground, primarily at the border. And as a matter of background for that, let me say that very, very few Americans have been involved in any way in an aircraft crash, but most of us have been involved in a vehicle crash. So let me clarify what my amendments will do in a way that every member of the committee will understand. In the state of Louisiana, and this is replicated across the sovereign states, if a vehicle crashes, one vehicle or 10, the investigating authority must complete what's called a Louisiana Uniform Motor Vehicle Crash Report. That's a vehicle crash. We call it an accident, right? In law enforcement, it's called a crash. However, if law enforcement takes an action, the difference between a crash and a law enforcement action is what I'm getting at here. If law enforcement uses a technique in a pursuit called a pit maneuver to cause that fleeing vehicle to crash, then a Louisiana Uniform Motor Vehicle Crash Report is not completed because that's considered a law enforcement action. The details of that vehicle crash are included in the criminal report of the investigative authority. Same thing if we use strips to blow out the tires of a fleeing vehicle, that vehicle crashes. There's no Louisiana State Uniform Motor Vehicle Crash Report completed because clearly that was a law enforcement action and is documented within the law enforcement jurisdictional authority report. So on the border, we have technology that can detect and mitigate cartel drone action. And we've had it for several years. There's been some of late, shall we say within the last couple of years, some level of trepidation for the law enforcement officials to use what's considered the offensive capabilities of this anti-drone tech, which is to land or crash that drone. We're talking about small drones, the kind that you can buy. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of them in operation right now on the border. Cartels are using them very, very effectively, primarily as scouts. So we have technology that tracks these drones very effectively, and we keep a map of that. And anytime law enforcement determines it's a good idea to capture that drone, they have line of sight on that drone, the men in the field. They have the technology at their disposal to interrupt the radio signal of that drone, that cartel drone. And what happens is with an older model drone, it'll crash. A newer model drone, the last few years, when it loses its signal from its home beacon, it just lands. And then our law enforcement guys go collect that drone and turn it over to the investigators within their department for DNA collection, fingerprints, look at the memory files, the cards, the photographs, etc. It's a treasure of evidence within that drone. So my amendment number 93 would ask the Inspector General to conduct an investigation regarding exactly what has happened, why has the FAA has there been any interaction between the FAA and the Border Patrol law enforcement boots on the ground regarding the offensive capabilities of our anti-drone technology. Because for the last year or so, we've been using the defensive capabilities, the tracking capabilities of this technology, but not the mitigating or offensive capabilities of our anti-drone technology. We haven't been landing them. Allegedly, it's because it has come from on high that it's considered a crash. So the FAA would have authority And therefore, there's been there's been hesitation to use the offensive capability. My amendment number 93 would quite simply ask the Inspector General to look into that. My amendment number 95 clarifies that the FAA has no authority regarding a law enforcement action of an unmanned aircraft system, a drone, as opposed to a crash. So those are my two amendments. I thank the committee for allowing me to speak on them, and I encourage support on both sides of the aisle for amendments number 93 and 95. I yield.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Guam.